Միասին ենք հարգելի հայրենագիտներ Փարեცես, հորիզոն հայկական հերոստագայանն է Մանուկ Սերահդարյանն եմ եւ ինչպես ասի։ Միասին ենք եւ միասին կզրուցենք, իսկ կզրուցենք ինչի մասին կամ որու մասին։ Ձեզ մե արդյոք ոմանք ծանոթ են Ուրֆայի թերծագուհին կամ հանթերծազարդ, ես այս բառը ավելի կսիրեի։ Իսկ եթե ծանոթ չեն, հիմա կծանոթանան, որովհետեւ այդ մտքի այդ երևույթի, այդ անձնավորության ստեղծիչը կամ այս բարակային քրագանորեն ստեղծիչը կգտնվի մեր դաղավարի մեջ այսօր եւ մենք կզրուցենք միասին։ Խոսքը հարկերի հարազատներ կվերապերի The Seamstress of Urfa քրքին, որը ցերկից տակ կգտնվի եւ տեսնենք թե այդ քրքի հեղինակը ինչ ունի եսելիք մեզի քրքի մասին, քրքի փոխանցության մասին, պատմության մասին, Ուրֆայի մասին եւ հանթերծազարդուհի մասին։ Միացեք ինձ հարգելի հարազատներ, ողջունենք մեր այսօրվան զրուցակիցը The Seamstress of Urfa քրքի հեղինակ ուրեմն Victoria Harwood Butler-Sloss-ը։ Բարի երեկո։
Merci.
Բարի հազար բարի։ I am really very glad and proud to have you here tonight.
Me too, thank you.
My pleasure. Because we're talking about something that is at least inspiration. It's history, it's story, and it has a lot to deliver to the generation that followed that lady, the Seamstress of Urfa. But before that,
Yes.
what connects you to the Seamstress of Urfa, or in other words, in a simple way, who is Victoria Harwood Butler-Sloss?
Victoria Harwood Butler-Sloss is related to the Seamstress of Urfa directly. She's my great-grandmother. Nene. Nene. That's who it is. Med's Nene. And this is her story, starting with when she is 13 years old and goes all the way through, well, actually, it's part of a trilogy, so it's part of 3 books, and the story goes all the way up to the year 2000, starting in 1893. And so we're directly related.
A span of 110 years,
yes,
almost.
Yes. A long time.
But here in this first part of the trilogy, we see some scenes in Nicosia, Cyprus. We see some scenes in Urfa. We see some scenes in Los Angeles, right?
Yes. The very first chapter is like I'm meeting them for the first time. It wasn't actually, in reality, the very first time I met my grandparents and my Armenian family, because we went backwards and forwards between Cyprus and England. But it's the first memory I have of we came on vacation and I saw all of them and I was presented to all of them individually and they made a lasting impression on me. So I start there. And then I take the story all the way back to the beginning, how my great-grandfather met and fell in love with my great-grandmother.
Well, apparently, ինչպես որ տեսակ հարկելի հարազատներ, ուրեմն որքան որ անունը երբեք կրնա չդպավորել հայկականությունը, Victoria Harwood Butler-Sloss, այնուամենայնիվ կբարձրի, որ Victorian հայ է, կոնե գիսով. And այո. Իսկ can you tell us about the 2 Victorias?
Yes.
Before she met the the grandparents and everyone else in the family, and after she met them, is there any difference?
Probably if I hadn't met them, when we moved to Cyprus, we actually lived in Cyprus when we were very young.
You were born in Cyprus?
I wasn't. I was born in England and we went to Cyprus. Okay. And we had to leave, but if I tell you the story of why we had to leave, it's a spoiler alert for the second book. There's something that happened.
Okay, so let's keep
leave that there.
Under suspense.
But yes, so there was a big reason why we had to leave suddenly. And
leave England, you mean?
we left Cyprus. We were in Cyprus in 1963 and we had to leave.
I see.
So I had shadowy memories of my grandparents, and when we came back, we ended up living there, and I became a very different person, I'm sure, because to this day I cannot cook for less than 10 people because we lived all together. My mother, my father, my brother, myself, my aunt, my uncle, my cousin, my grandparents and great-grandparents. So there were 10 of us in the house. And I grew up with a family of 10. 2 mums, 2 brothers, yeah.
So when you cook today, what do you do with the rest of the food?
I tell everyone we're going to eat it tomorrow, and they're like, we don't want leftovers. I'm like,
No,
you
that's
love
not a
leftovers.
leftover.
Yes, I've made it specially.
That's blessed, right?
Yes, but it's even harder now because my son is off in college, so it's you know, we're dwindling.
No, we're less in number.
Yes, so yeah.
All right, and okay, what made you write about your great-grandmother of the mom's side, not the other side, or maybe you did?
I'll tell you why, because from the day I grew up, from the day I remember hearing, I was listening to stories. And my family is a big family of storytellers. So we are always telling stories, even if we're sitting there in the heat and nothing's happening, we're talking about someone. We'll talk about you later. But so my grandmother, not my great-grandmother, but her daughter, Alice, she was the one, because she was a young girl during a lot of the atrocities.
Genocide?
Yes, and she was the one that repeated stories over and over again. And eventually, when I was at drama school, I went to drama school in the late 1980s, and I had a fantastic teacher. He said, listen, you have to write everything down. It's going to be fodder for so many things later on. So that summer when I went and I sat down with my grandmother, instead of just listening to the stories and going, ayo, ayo, gaskanam, ayo, mifachnar, hoknad says, you know, I would be, you know, writing down in detail, translating it into my diary. And then they sat in my diary for years with me thinking, what do I do with these stories? And then when I moved here in 1999, my husband had the work permit, and they said, well, you know, you have to stay at home and wash his socks. And I said, no, I'll take those stories and start, you know, working them into chapters. So I just started writing, and I started taking all of those translated stories and then trying to get all of the stories verified by different people. And that was interesting.
I see. So basically you decided, and you got the opportunity, and you decided to bring those pages in the diary into life.
Yes.
Now, even if you didn't tell us that you are English or British, we would know. I love the accent.
Thank you.
And it's interesting how things sometimes turn, the path they take, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a situation, in a condition, when you have now more responsibilities toward the family, toward the story, toward the history.
Yes.
And of course, relaying that history to the newer generations. But let's take a little break here and watch a little trailer, if you don't mind.
Yes, absolutely.
I guess
I'd love it.
it will be very meaningful and helps the show.
Thank you.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.
1895, Urfa, a thriving cosmopolitan city in the Ottoman Empire. Hatun meets her husband, Iskender Aya Baros. Twice her age, a poet, philosopher and a dreamer. He adores her but cannot express it in words. Around them, the Ottoman Empire is crumbling, the world heading towards war. And the Armenian minority subjected to increasing repression, culminating in the genocide of 1915. As Iskender retreats into his books and alcohol, losing land, money and business, Khatun holds their family together by sewing for the wives of the men who persecute them. Her creations inciting love, lust and fertility.
But how deep does friendship go amongst enemies? Will the family evade the death marches to the Syrian desert? And can Hatun hold the seams of her family together? Or will they unravel forever into exile?
Հարկելի հայրենագիցներ գենթացրեմ հիմա քիչ ավելի լավ ծանոթացակ Ուրֆայի հանդերձազարդ Տիգին Խատունին։ Իսկ անոնք, որոնք ուրֆացի են, գահավադան, որ նաև իրենք ալունին իրենց հիշադակները լսած իրենց մեծերեն, իրենց նախահայրերեն, մեծ հայրերեն եւ մեծ մայրերեն։ Հավանաբար յուրաքանչյուր ընտանիքի մեջ կա Խատունը, որը ունի իր յուրահատուկ, իր յուրօրինակ պատմությունը։ In 20 seconds, what can you comment on what we just watched?
20 seconds.
Now you have 18 only.
I made it. I made that trailer using my neighbors and a camera I found at home.
I gotta say something in this regard, but we don't have the time, I guess. When we come back, we'll touch base on that. You made it using a camera that you found and making your neighbors and friends act.
Yes.
We'll be back to that point right after the short break. Համբերություն գվերաթարնանք եւ կենտրոնացնենք շատ ավելի հետաքրքիր կդառնա մեր զրույցը։ Մնացեք մեզի հետ։ Միասին ենք հարկելի հայրենագիցներ, մեզի հետ միասին է նաև Victoria Harwood Butler-Sloss, որը Seamstress of Urfa կրկին հեղինակն է։ Նախքան ընդմիջումը մենք դիտեցինք փոքր հոլովակ եւ հետաքրքրականորեն իմանանք, որ հոլովակի նաև հեղինակը, նույն ինքն կրկի հեղինակն է Victoria Harwood Butler-Sloss-ը։ You got what I'm saying? Now, I thought you were a writer, but it turns out that you are at the same time, and you got to talk about the background here.
Right.
You're the director, you're the costume designer, you're the lyrics author, you made the score, I guess.
Yes.
What else? Well, yes,
I
of
fed
course.
them.
You have over 20 years of experience on TV and stage.
Yes.
Royal College of Dramatic Art, Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. Would you please tell us about it now?
So I went to drama school and I learnt how to do all of that, mostly how to act. And I worked as an actress for 20 years, mostly on stage. And then I retired when I came to Hollywood.
What a wrong time and place to retire.
No, it was the right time. I was like, I didn't want to start again. I'd had a nice career. I really enjoyed what I had been doing, the people I was working with. And it was mostly in theatre. If I'd gone to New York, I might have continued with acting.
In theatre.
But anyway, I didn't have the visa to work. So I said, well, look, I'll do something without upsetting our immigration process, because we wanted to be,
legal.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, we were good people.
Yes. Armenians are.
Yes. So I did eventually, once I got my, citizenship and everything like that, I did go back and I started doing some voiceovers, and I will do some more voiceover work. But my experience with making film and frankly watching film, because I often have to watch for BAFTA and the DGA, I often, help with the voting. So just from picking up on films, I was like, look, I want to make this little... First of all, I made a little documentary about Cyprus, about a diary I wrote during the war there. And then I did an art exhibition, and then I wrote the short film, and I did that. And then when I sent this book out to be published, without wanting to sit there and, bite my nails, waiting to get rejected, I said, look, I'll take my favorite chapter and film that. And my poor mum and auntie and cousin were all coming to visit me. And they arrived and I said, we're going to do some filming. All you have to do is do what I say, wear these costumes and do what I say. And they said yes, and they are fantastic. I discovered both my aunt and my cousin should be on the stage because they are absolutely brilliant naturals. And so I filmed that using, my husband had a camera, the 5D, lying around at home. He was a commercials producer, so that was part of the, it loafed around the house. So he said, well, you know, I tried to find somebody to be my, you know, to work on it for me, to actually film it, but I didn't have a budget and nobody was interested. So I said,
but the 5D was there.
The 5D was there, and I was thinking as well at the same time, you know, my mother and my aunt are old. Mary, who plays Umme Ferida, she plays the old character. She's also quite, and one minute they're like, I'm not going to do it. I don't care about your film, I don't want to do it. And the next day it's like, when are we doing the film? Why aren't you doing it today? So I thought, how am I going to, you know, pay somebody to come on and film when they're going to be not in the mood? So I said, look, I'll learn to use the camera. I Googled how to learn, you know, to switch it on. It took me 24 hours to figure out how not to take a picture and to film by switching a button.
Yes. Yes. It's just a button.
It's just a button, but it took me...
to turn it to the video and that's it.
By that time, I'd learnt about f-stops and everything and focus.
Oh.
So then when I turned on the camera and I saw what I was looking at, I was really excited because it was so beautiful. And I was like, I'll film it. I'll do it. So I did everything.
Apparently you underestimated the 5D, but
I just love that camera.
You didn't know what it was, but now you do.
Yes, I do.
And I've been on TV for 17 years, although I'm not acting here, but I found that at the moment that I have a lot to learn from you and your experience.
Yes.
So now that was actually a very beautiful, what would I call it, a video, a clip?
It's a book trailer.
It's a book trailer.
My publisher said, can you do a book trailer? And I said, well, so I put it together and they were like, it's great, but it's too long. And I was like, well, anyway, we can do a short thing.
Thanks to the family members, to the neighbors, to the friends, to your husband and the 5D.
Yes.
Now they will pay us for the advertising, by the way, the 5D guys.
No, they'll be very excited that they're on TV again.
I can see and I can tell. Wonderful. Now let's go back to the seamstress of Urfa.
Yeah.
At one point, there are certain people who would question the facts of the history or the story.
Right.
Now, these are people who lived there. There was a question in the trailer. There was a question: how would that friendship would work? Something like that.
Yeah. How long would it last?
Between foes or between enemies. I don't remember the words. And what do you have to say in that regard?
I would say that despite going through the genocide and then everything that happened to their lives, they survived that, but then they did lose everything in 1922 when they were forced to leave, and they rebuilt their lives in Aleppo as refugees with nothing, in a Khan with many, many other refugees. That to the day she died...
May I interrupt here, please? You mentioned Aleppo.
Yes.
Have you been there? Do you have stories?
No, I really wanted to go, but I'll answer that question in a second.
All right.
What was the one we were talking about now? I got lost.
1922, when they had to leave, and you had friends, you said?
Till the day she died, my great-grandmother and my grandmother professed that they were friends with Turks. They never had animosity. They never had a bad word to say.
They didn't have hatred.
My grandmother was traumatized by what happened to her. She was traumatized because she was a young girl and she witnessed horrible atrocities. But in 1974, there was a coup in Cyprus when we were living there and an invasion by Turkey. And eventually, because everything got so bad, we had to flee to the British bases, which is where they were holding all of the refugees. And we went to a refugee camp, but my great-grandmother and my father stayed at home. And my great-grandmother said, so what if the Turks come? I've lived with them all my life. They're my friends. I'm staying.
What happened next?
They stayed. The Turks didn't get quite to our house. They got to about a mile away. And that's where the border is, about a mile.
Until now?
until this day.
Yes.
Still. But there's an interesting thing. They're all buried now in the Armenian cemetery, which is another documentary I'm going to do. I've already filmed it. The cemetery where they're buried, yes, the cemetery where they're buried in Cyprus is in no man's land. So you cross a Greek checkpoint, and up on the hill there's a Turkish flag and the Turkish soldiers, and they change, you know, you can watch the sunset and watch them changing the Turkish soldiers, and underneath the flag there are all of the Armenians that survived the genocide, World War I, II, the Cyprus War, and they're buried in this little plot of land that belongs to no one, no man's land.
Many Armenians have been buried in no man's land. In other words, they've been lost there.
Yes.
They have not been buried, actually. And yes, that was a very important point, I guess, your grandma had, or great-grandma had. The matter is not a matter of hatred. The matter is a matter of recognition and justice. As simple as that. We all make mistakes.
We can't move forward unless there is some kind of closure.
Well, of course, and that's the whole point, I guess. I congratulate you for, I wouldn't say the courage, but the audacity to bring this back to life and share it with the world. Because it tells a story, and that story is part of, whether we like it or not, is part of the story of humanity.
Yes.
Sometimes the inhumanity. But that story might prevent another inhumanity.
Yes.
What do you think about this point?
It's hard to learn forgiveness. And I think one of the reasons is when something is, there isn't closure, when there is denial of something and culpability is denied, you are also denied the possibility of moving forward and forgiving. You would have to talk to people like my great-grandmother and my grandmother, who were very pure of heart and were very forgiving, to investigate their minds for
I really understand what you're saying, and apparently I guess everyone agrees with you, including myself, that if I do you harm, if I do you wrong, your ability of forgiving would be, at least to one point, dependent on my admission of the mistake.
Yes.
Because if I do that wrong, if I do that harm, and I think that I did well, that will not give you that opportunity. That will not you make feel that, okay, let's forgive and move on. But when I realize and I come back to you saying, okay, I made a mistake, I did something wrong, it was really bad, but now I realize, would you please, I'm sorry. Now you have the ability and the opportunity to forgive.
Yes.
That's the whole point. And that's the whole message you're trying to get to the entire world, including the perpetrators themselves. Համենայն դեպս հարգելի բարեկամներ, ինչպես կլսեք, կտեսնեք, որ վերջի վերջո մեր բոլորին պատմությունն է, մեր բոլորին ծանոթ պատմությունն է, թեկուզ եթե այդտեղ հերոսը կամ հերոսուհին մեզի ուղղակի անծանոթ անձնավորություն է, բայց մեր բոլորին պատմությունն է։ Մեզ մեր յուրաքանչյուրը քիչ առաջ կսեի ուրֆացիները, բայց հիմա պիտի ասեմ նաև բոլորս ունենք երևի մեր հիշողություններում մեջ խաթունը, որ կամ հանդերձազարդ էր, կամ հոյագապ խոհարարուհի էր, կամ աննման մայր էր, գին էր, քույր էր, եւ այլն, եւ այլն, եւ այլն։ Իսկ կովասներին հետ կվերածանանք եւ կշարունակենք մեր զրույցը։ Մնացեք մեզի հետ։ Միասին ենք տակավին հարկելի հարազատները կշարունակենք, and together with us is Victoria Harwood Butler-Sloss. You already know her, and the seamstress of Urfa. By the way, Victoria, this is a very, very beautiful cover design.
Thank you.
Can you tell us who did it? Don't tell me you did it, like
No.
the editor, the producer, the director. Okay.
But I did have a part in it.
It would be, right?
Yes. A girl called Annie Damiano did it from Cyprus. And
it's really very beautiful.
my publishers asked me for some ideas, and I said I want it to be like it's embroidery because she's a seamstress. So we worked on doing some embroidery, and each character. Okay, this is a little side story. I'll try and tell you quickly. But each chapter, when I was first writing it, I wrote sometimes different characters speak. So every time a different character spoke, I had a different font. And my publisher said, "This is brilliant. All of these fonts are so beautifully chosen, and you really did a good job, but we're not going to use them." They said, "Get rid of the fonts."
That's the nicest way to say, no, we're doing it our way.
Yes. So they said we have to have a uniform font, otherwise the eye gets tired, and all of the research that they've done about how people read. So I said, well, then can they have a little motif? And I was very interested in doing these little motifs, which would be like henna patterns or tattoos, because at the time some women got tattooed during the period of this book. And so I drew the little pen and ink drawings that come at the top of each chapter. And each one of those, even though it's like a tattoo, is based on the design of the year from a Singer sewing machine.
Oh.
So her machine was a Singer sewing machine, so everyone has a little motif that is based on that year's design, because they would have them in black with gold tendrils.
I remember
Every
that.
year is a different pattern. And if something major happened, like there was a coronation, they'd have a special sewing machine for that. So all of those motifs. And then she, Annie, incorporated them on the cover. So some of the motifs for the characters are in there too.
So throughout the book, or on the top of the beginning of each chapter, you can even trace the history of Singer.
You can trace the Singer of
Good for them. You did them a very big favor, actually.
Yes, you would think that they could sponsor me.
Well, they should.
Yes.
All right. Here's another message to Singer.
Yeah.
And I noticed here, I don't know if Annie has also any kind of Armenian blood in her, or you guided her. I see very high gagan, asong shad high gagan.
Those are the motifs. Those are the ones I've done. The pomegranates.
Yes.
The pomegranates are mine.
Okay, okay. Well, I didn't expect anything else.
I'm obsessed with pomegranates. We have a lot of pomegranate things going on in our house.
They are beautiful.
Yes.
They taste wonderful.
Yes.
They are very healthy, antioxidants, and they are Armenian.
Yes.
Okay, of course, we would be adoring pomegranates. We'll talk about a pomegranate, another pomegranate, a little later, I guess.
Yes.
But would you please, if it's not secret, or to the extent that you would like to talk about the next two chapters, not the next two chapters, the next two
books. Well,
volumes.
When I say I started writing and couldn't stop. So I started in the year 1895 and went all the way up to the year 2000. And I thought, right, at this point, I must stop and just start going back and looking at what I've written. And I gave the whole stack, I think it came to a stack this high, to a friend of mine. And a week later when he came back and he says, I can't even start, there's too much.
It's scary.
Yeah, I realized. So I cut it,
size,
yes,
right?
I cut it into 3 books. And I had them weaving all the way through, the modern story going all the way through the 3 books. So the way I did it is take 4 generations of women. There's Khatun, there's Alice, there's Virginia and Takuhi, which is my mum and auntie, and then there's my story. So that could be 4 books, but actually it's 3. And the second book covers a more or less 40-year arc following Alice as the protagonist and rebuilding their lives in Aleppo and then moving to Cyprus. And the last one is told from the perspective of my mother and my aunt and their lives growing up in Cyprus, where they eventually lived. So it goes through chronologically all the way up to the year 2000.
Wonderful. And then using the high skills that I have, then Alice would be your grandmother.
Yes.
And earlier when we stopped for a second in Aleppo, you said I'll answer that question later, and now you mentioned Aleppo. Is it
oh God, what was the question?
Were you ever in Aleppo? Or what do you know about Aleppo? What does it mean, Aleppo, to you, or to the family, or to the story, or through the story to you again?
Aleppo is very close to our heart because that is where my family regrew everything. They went there as refugees with nothing, literally. They were helped by a friend and they were given a cart of stuff. And but the business and everything they lost, and a huge big house. So they rebuilt their lives, and that's where my grandmother met her husband, my grandfather Haigaz, in Aleppo. And that's where my mother is born and where my aunt is born. So we owe Aleppo a huge thank you.
Apparently, your mom was born in Aleppo.
Yes.
I was too.
Yes, we could be cousins.
Who knows? Yes, let's find that too, yes. And yes, we owe Aleppo a lot.
Yes. And it's a terrible shame what's happening there now.
Well, and let's not go to the dirty politics because then I will vomit on the table
with
lots of information and lots of...
No vomiting,
let's
it's
forget
a clean
that
TV
part.
show.
Yes. Well, not that type of a vomit, but a different type of a vomit.
Yes.
Anyway, so what I see is that now, actually, Aleppo also has a little part or a part in your story.
Yes.
And I guess maybe in the second volume,
even in the first
volume,
book. In the first book, Aleppo is seen as the beacon, the shining light, that they say, well, let's go to Aleppo, it will be safe. And they keep going to Aleppo and coming back, and going to Aleppo because the grandfather misses the grandchild. So they keep coming back, and so they are back when the trouble starts.
Actually, all of them arrived to Aleppo with nothing but the hope and the strength to live.
Yes.
To reproduce, to remake everything, and send a message throughout the history forever to everyone. And now we get to the point where I believe, if you don't mind, this is only my opinion.
No, go ahead.
You already have done some work, which I already saw it, and that made me now more profound on insisting on this idea, on this opinion.
Yes.
I believe this is worth turning it into a movie. We'll talk about that a little later. That's very personal opinion. It's an impression that I got.
From your lips to God's ears.
Okay, so now I'm a little comforted. Apparently you like the idea.
I do like the idea.
But we'll talk about it when we come back from our next break. But before that here, I want to tell our viewers now, what is the book availability? Where they can find it, where they can purchase it or order it, and if you have any timeline in mind about the second volume, the third volume.
Second volume and third volume, not in my hands. They are written. Everything is written. It just needs to go over more, tidy up. And right now we're concentrating on the first one.
Okay.
So I would say another year or two for the second one.
Where can people get this?
Basically, you can go into any bookshop in your local area and they will order it for you. So you can just say, I want The Seamstress of Orpha by Victoria Harwood Butler-Sloss, and they can order it. You can go to Amazon.com. Here in Los Angeles, it's in Chevalier's bookshop on Larchmont. It's in Abril in Glendale.
Yes.
If you go into Barnes & Noble, they can order it for you. If you're in the UK, does anyone from the UK watch this?
Who knows, yeah.
You can get it from Amazon.co.uk. You can get it from the Armenian Institute
in
London. And in Cyprus, it's in quite a few bookshops across Cyprus because that's where we launched it. That's where I come from, so we wanted to do...
but I believe it was printed in
no, it was
USA,
actually printed.
right?
No, it was printed in Cyprus, but it's actually probably by now it is printed here because when you order it, they print to demand.
Oh, I see.
So
I get the point. Yes.
So it's in stock in certain places, but basically you can order it from any of those places or from the publisher, armidabooks.com.
Armida.
Armida, A-R-M-I-D-A.
All right. Well, when we come back, after we come back, we'll kind of recatch on this and then move on my opinion or my, should I say, wish.
Yes, your hope, your
Հովասներն
dream.
ամիջապես վերջ կվերադառնանք հարկերի հարազատներ եւ կամ փոփենք կամ եզրափակենք, որքան որ կարելի է։ Կշարունակենք միասին հարկելի հարազատներ Victoria Harwood Butler-Sloss-ն է մեզի հետ The Seamstress of Urfa կրքի հեղինակը։ Այստեղ կա պատմություն, այստեղ կան ցավեր, կան հույզեր, կա ապագա, կա անցյալ եւ կա ամեն ինչ, որ մեր բոլորին յուրաքանչյուրին կյանքի մեջ բաժին ունի փաստորեն։ And the last thing we were talking before we went to the break, dear Victoria, was where or how people can get the book. And from your answer, I can just summarize everything. Wherever you are,
yes,
you can find the book.
Yes.
It's the information age.
Yes.
Amazon, all the .coms that you can imagine.
Yes.
Anyway, of a .com something or something.com that you can order books. You can find the book, you can have it. And I would say, because I read it, you will enjoy it.
It's also on Kindle, and
Kindle too?
It's on Kindle too,
Oh.
and I'm doing the audio. I'm halfway through doing the audio.
So the audiobook too.
Audiobook is coming, on its way.
By the way, you were doing the voiceover on that
was,
clip, right?
Yes.
So it will be a good listen if you prefer the audiobook, you know, hearing or listening to it while you are driving, I guess,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
All right. So well, done with the finding the book, purchasing book, getting the book, but I had this this feeling or this opinion or this push, this drive, this motive, whatever you want to call it,
Yes.
that this kind of a thing should be turned into a movie. Especially the talent is there, the background and the experience is there. You've been an actress, you know how to deal with these kind of things. I understand that this is also a production matter.
Yes.
Did you think about it?
I never thought about it. I didn't write. In fact, I had a friend who came around. She said, "Is this going to be a movie?" And I was like, "No." She said, "Why are you writing it?" I was like, "Because I have to write the story." And she just looked at me like, you know, "Why aren't you thinking of the future?" However,
now this is the second person telling you the same thing, so you got to think about it seriously.
I will. But no, I have taken it further than that.
Okay, then I withdraw.
Yes, withdraw. I actually think, because it's such dense material, trying to put it into a 1.5-hour movie wouldn't work. But an 8-part miniseries, filmed beautifully. Imagine Downton Abbey with all of the beautiful clothes, because she's a seamstress, she's a couture seamstress, all of the beautiful clothes for the Ottoman Empire, the rich, the wealthy, the village life, the food, all of the stuff. A lot of people who, when they read the book and they write reviews, they talk about, "I loved the food, I was there, I felt immersed." In order to get that immersion, that create that life, I think a mini-series for 6 or 8 episodes each book.
So that would be a TV production in this case.
Yes, a TV, something like Netflix, because they're taking over the world.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And let's not, well, I don't want to elaborate more in that regard. However, again, this is just an opinion.
Yeah.
I think if you had the right, the understanding, the knowledgeable screenwriter or
Yes.
the script writer, they might be able to do some miraculous work and turn everything that you or include everything that you mentioned.
Well, I have
into
already, yes.
into a feature film. Not necessarily 90 minutes. Let it be 98 minutes. No problem.
But the problem
Nobody
is,
will object.
No, but the problem is, okay, look at The Promise, which is a similar time and a place.
Yes.
Look at all of the money that was put into The Promise. And I love the film, and I have friends who phone me up saying, "I've just seen this film about, you know, a story like your story." And it's amazing, but the mainstream general public didn't go. I don't know what numbers it made. Because, sadly, even though it's beautifully shot and it has stars in it, people want to see guns, technology, and
sex and drugs.
Sex, drugs, and rock and roll, let's be frank. But if it were, and it would be much cheaper to do, a much cheaper project to do a film, but if we were to do a series, I think it would translate better.
I understand.
Personally, although now I am talking to somebody who has offered to write a screenplay. Although now, when we had a conversation, we're now thinking about actually writing a treatment for the series instead. So it's still mulling over.
It's boiling.
Yes.
Well, great to hear. Whatever the format is,
yes,
whether it's a feature film or a miniseries, it will be wonderful. I believe it's going to be wonderful, and I believe there might be some people, our Hayrenagits,
yes,
who might be interested in bringing that into reality, in the sense of, I would say. If there is anything that maybe the community can do, or someone who can jump in and say, I would love to participate in that project, and do you
I'm open to everything. I have a philosophy in life. I never get depressed when people decline, like they say, oh, I don't want to publish this, I don't want to print that, I don't want to screen this.
You don't have problem with rejection?
Of course I do. I hate getting rejected, but I can move past it very quickly. I can just, because my philosophy is to go with yes. And I'm here today because I had lunch with somebody, and I had lunch with him because he saw the book, and this girl who wrote an article about the book for the newspaper was in a book club, and the book club decided to read my book. So and that is a theme in the book, every pebble dropped even into the driest of wells will cause ripples and swells somewhere else. So anybody out there that wants to get in touch with me with any ideas, I'm open to ideas. That is the way things move forward.
We have a little trailer or clip. Let's watch that too, and then we'll try to conclude, if it is possible to conclude.
That's from one of the chapters, because I already filmed one of the chapters.
We're watching it and coming it back very soon.
So, that's me. I'm dead. Now listen, and I'll set you straight on a few things. I have something to tell you. But if I open my mouth and a flock of birds flies out, you have to catch them. All of them. Hold them close to your heart and never let them go. What I'm going to say has to be held tight in the palm, not twisted and turned into a story for later. Oh no. This is just between you and me.
What is this?
This is a flock of birds, and a flock of birds is, I think, my favorite chapter in the book. And one of the reasons why is because, as I told you, everything goes more or less chronologically. And then we jump out of time, and we have this story told by my great-great aunt, Umm Ferida. And she tells this story from the point of view of her corpse. She says, so that's me, I'm dead, and let me tell you. And she tells you a secret about something to do with her life. And when you read the book, all of the chapters surrounding it, you meet the characters with whom this secret takes place. Well, it's an affair, I have to say that, otherwise, you know, I'm being very vague here. But yes, so you meet the characters, but you never actually see them. But you see her maybe pass the cigarettes to him. And when she tells you in this chapter, yeah, I passed him the cigarettes so I could touch his fingers. But you never see that in the other chapters. So it's an unusual chapter because it's out of time, it's out of sequence, and it's told by a corpse. And as I said, when I was waiting, when I sent off my manuscript to publishers looking to get published, I didn't want to sit there biting my nails, getting nervous. So I said, let me do something. So I filmed my favorite chapter with my mother, my aunt, my cousin, my neighbor, my dog, my kids. I made my house look like 1915 Orpha. And the story goes between two timelines because she's like 1968, she's a corpse, and then she goes back. And it's a love story.
Whoever is going to make this into a film or a miniseries will be very lucky because you will offer them great help and great insight.
If they hire me.
Well, they will.
Good.
They will. They'll find
Good.
the talent, they'll find the abilities, and they will. And unfortunately, almost always, time comes to an end in the wrong timing. Now, our show time is almost over.
Then let me just tell you, that film
Please do.
is going to be at the Pomegranate Film Festival in Toronto. Next month, November the 16th, we have a screening, and I'll be there with the book, and I'll be signing the book as well.
In Toronto.
In Toronto.
The Armenian community in Toronto. Go ahead and enjoy this and the film and the presence of the author. Victoria Harwood, Butler-Sloss, thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
My pleasure.
Իսկ ցեզ հայրենի բարեկամներ, բարին ցեզ։ Միշտ